The top stories tonight in Y News. Overseas Filipino workers can now spend quality time with their families during the holidays as the Interagency Task Force Against COVID-19 shortens the hotel quarantine for fully vaccinated Filipinos from yellow countries from 5 days to just 3 days beginning November 22.
The palace assured that the unnamed presidential aspirant accused of being a cocaine user would not receive any special treatment from the government. However, the Commission on Elections says the substance abuse is not a ground for disqualification of an election candidate.
Former Senator Bongbong Marcos and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte emerged as the top preferred bets for the 2022 polls based on a latest survey. Meanwhile, Mayor Duterte rejoins the Hugpong Regional Party.
The palace assures that the Philippines will cooperate with the United States following the indictment of religious leader Apollo Quiboloy for sex trafficking charges.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. Today is Friday, November 19, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts in our website, untvweb.com. I'm Angelo Castro III.
First in the news. Commercial establishments and employers may still require the use of face shields within their premises. Janice and Henta will tell us why.
Acting Presidential Spokesperson Carlo Nograles clarifies their earlier announcement that the voluntary use of face shield in areas under COVID-19 Alert Level 1, 2, and 3 is without prejudice to employers still requiring face shield for their employees and customers. The Interagency Task Force for the Management of Infectious Diseases approved Resolution 149 ratifying the recommendation to allow businesses and employers to require the use of face shield at their own discretion.
Napagkasunduan ng IETF, discretion ng establishmento. Ang isang example dyan, yung sinasabi dating sa construction site, di ba? Example, no? Required ang hard hat. So, ganun din po, ganun din po yung prinsipyo pagdating ng mga customers, nasa discretion po ng establishmento.
Face shields are still mandatory in areas under Alert Level 5 based on the memorandum issued by Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea. Meanwhile, all partially vaccinated employees in the public and private sector tasked to do on-site work are not required to undergo regular RT-PCR tests at their own expense unless they are still waiting for their second dose.
Ang employer ang magsasabi kung gaano kadalas ang RT-PCR testing para sa mga empleyado na hindi pa fully vaccinated na nasa on-site. And this should be done at least once every 2 weeks. At least once every 2 weeks.
Based on the new measures that will take effect on December 1, COVID-19 vaccination of eligible employees who are doing on-site work in both public and private sectors will be required in areas where there are sufficient vaccine supplies. Janice and Hente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Health has released a list of immunocompromised conditions that will be given priority in getting COVID-19 booster shots. Aiko Miguel report.
DOH spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said that the health department is crafting guidelines in preparation for the inoculation of booster dose among the senior citizens and immunocompromised individuals. Last night, the DOH held a meeting with all experts group to lay out plans on the booster rollout among the said sectors.
Gagawin lang po namin yung guidelines and we will be announcing through our National Vaccine Operations Cluster kung kailan po mag-uumpisa ang pagbabakuna ng booster or third doses para sa ating mga nakakatanda or A2 and those individuals with immunocompromised states.
Undersecretary Vergere also says the list of immunocompromised conditions prioritized for booster dose was adopted from the recommendation of the World Health Organization Strategic Advisory Group of Experts on Immunization, or WHO SAGE. Those prioritized in the inoculation of booster doses include individuals with autoimmune disease, HIV, cancer, or malignancy. Also included are transplant patients, undergoing steroid treatment, and patients with poor prognosis or bedridden patients. The DOH reminds eligible immunocompromised persons to secure a medical clearance from their tending physicians before getting a booster dose. Meanwhile, as of November 17, there are already more than 2,000 healthcare workers who received their booster dose.
There were already 2,488 booster doses administered last November 17 among our healthcare workers. Meron ho tayong mga kaunting nagkaroon ng reaksyon. It's about 2% of all of these. Lahat po ay na-manage accordingly and they were all sent home na they were well. So wala ho tayong serious na adverse events na naitala para po dito sa mga naka-receive na ng booster doses.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
There will be no additional holidays during the 3-day vaccination drive of the national government. JP Duñez will tell us why.
The 3-day national vaccination drive to be conducted on November 29 to December 1 will be declared as special working days according to Acting Presidential Spokesperson Carlo Nograles. The nationwide simultaneous vaccination drive will be observed and all sectors are expected to participate.
Kami po ay nakikiusap sa lahat ng ating mga kababayan, sa public, private sector, mga kapwa nating mga kasamahan sa gobyerno, na suporta natin itong National Vaccination Days.
The government will aim to inoculate around 15 million individuals from the 3-day vaccination. Department of the Interior and Local Government Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya reported that the National Vaccine Operation Center are busy identifying areas to be prioritized, while the Department of Health will inspect schools to be used as vaccination sites.
On the part of the DILG, we will mobilize our sangguniang kabataan. Yun pong mga miyembro ng SK ay gagamitin natin bilang encoders. And we will coordinate very closely with the local government units para ang mga SK ay mamobilize natin para sa bayanihan, bakunahan. Gagamitin din po natin ang mga teachers mula sa DepEd bilang encoders sa araw na to dahil sa milyon-milyon po ang mababakunahan, kailangan mabilis din ang pag-encode ng kanilang vaccination data para maisama sa line list at para maipasok sila sa VaxCert PH Digital Certificate Program ng ating pamalahan.
The DILG will release a memorandum that will serve as guidelines for the proper execution of the national vaccination days and a mobilization effort to encourage citizens who are still hesitant to get vaccinated.
Gagawa po tayo ng mga social mobilization activities para po marami ang mga kababayan natin magpabakuna sa 3 araw na bayanihan, bakunahan. Una po, we will be conducting a series of town hall meetings sa mga barangay, kasama ang mga medical societies and allied health societies para hikayatin pa ang merong vaccine hesitancy or vaccine preference na magpabakuna na.
Malaya also encourages local government units to empower their incentivized program to encourage more Filipinos to get vaccinated against COVID-19. JP Nunez, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
There are 40,000 interns available under the Department of Labor and Employment's Internship program to assist as data encoders during the 3-day national vaccination program of the government. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
The national government targets to vaccinate at least 15 million individuals during the upcoming National Vaccination Days from November 29 to December 1. Within the 3-day vaccination drive of the government, additional manpower is needed to accommodate the individuals to be vaccinated, as well as the encoding of data and other information. Several government agencies are ready to assist in the bulk of individuals that will participate in the vaccination drive. DOLE is prepared to tap the interns under the government internship program to add to the manpower for the national vaccination days. The department's government internship program is open to individuals ages 18 to 30 who are high school graduates with no working experience. The government internship program of DOLE aims to help the youth to find jobs in various government agencies.
Currently po, yung pool po natin, meron po tayong around 40,000 nationwide. Pero hindi naman po natin sila magagamit lahat dahil may kani-kanya rin po silang mga assignments sa kani-kanilang mga sangay ng pamahalaan at the local and national level. Pero hihiramin po natin sila sa loob lamang po ng 3 araw.
DOLE also said that the Department of Information and Communications Technology also requested to extend the service of the interns for 1 month. This is to further aid the government in data encoding for the government's vaccination drive. Meanwhile, the Department of Health is also looking for additional volunteers to assist as vaccinators, health screeners, encoders for registration, and data consolidator during the national vaccination days. Interested individuals can register online through vaccine.retool.com.
30,000 vaccination teams. Ang isang bakunahan or vaccination team will comprise of about 5 to 6 individuals per team. So pag tinignan natin, nangangailangan tayo siguro mga 160,000. Kaya nananawagan po tayo sa ating mga medical societies, nananawagan po tayo sa mga eskwelahan, medical schools, nursing schools, and the other healthcare worker schools. Kung maaari po, tulungan niyo po tayo dito sa gagawin nating event. This is not just for the government, this is for the public.
With this, the local government is prepared to offer assistance including transportation and food for the participating volunteers. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippines recorded 1,485 new cases of novel coronavirus disease or COVID-19, pushing the nationwide case count to 2,823,210. In its latest bulletin, the Department of Health, or DOH, said that the number of active cases in the country is down to 23,200. Of the active cases, 59.6% have mild symptoms, 19.56% have moderate symptoms, 12% are severe cases, 5.1% are in critical condition, and 3.8% are asymptomatic. Meanwhile, 1,393 new survivors were logged. This brought the recovery tally to 2,753,312. The death toll, however, climbed to 46,698 after 277 more patients died. The Department of Health said that the Philippines is still at low-risk classification for COVID-19. Meanwhile, the overall global COVID-19 caseload has topped 256,209,677, while the deaths have surged to 5,134,631, according to the Johns Hopkins University. The U.S. is still the worst-hit country, with the world's highest number of cases and deaths, followed by India and Brazil.
The Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases shortens quarantine days for returning overseas Filipinos. Asher Cadapan Jr. details why live. Asher, go ahead.
Jaga, the decreasing number of COVID-19 cases and high vaccination rate of the country, as well as of those included in the green and yellow list identified by the Philippine government, led to the easing of protocols for our returning overseas Filipinos.
Taas ang vaccination rate po nila doon sa green list country. Tayo rin naman po, mataas na rin po, tumataas ang vaccination rate natin dito sa bansang Pilipinas. Bumababa na rin po yung mga na-infect ng COVID.
Based on the guidelines set by the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, fully vaccinated returning Filipinos coming from green countries need to undergo RT-PCR test upon arrival and will be subjected to facility-based quarantine until the release of negative RT-PCR test result. They will then self-monitor for any symptoms until their 14th day of arrival. However, for those with negative RT-PCR test result taken within 72 hours prior to their departure, they will no longer be required to undergo facility-based quarantine and on-arrival COVID-19 test. Meanwhile, fully vaccinated returning Filipinos from yellow countries need to present a negative RT-PCR test result taken within 72 hours from departure and undergo facility-based quarantine until the release of their negative RT-PCR test result. Their COVID-19 test will be taken on the third day of their arrival and self-monitoring for the rest of the days. If returning Filipinos have no negative RT-PCR test result prior to departure, they will be required to undergo a facility-based quarantine until the release of negative RT-PCR test result to be taken on the 5th day. They will undergo home quarantine until the 10th day from arrival. For partially or unvaccinated returning Filipinos from yellow countries, they will be required to have a facility-based quarantine until the release of negative RT-PCR test result taken on the 5th and self-monitor until the 14th day of arrival. While for returning Filipinos from red countries, whether vaccinated or not, will only be allowed entry if they are being repatriated or transported home via Bayanihan flights. Currently, there are about 44 countries under the green list, which includes those that have minimal to no COVID-19 cases and high vaccination rate, while countries not on the list are tagged as yellow countries, except for the Netherlands and Faroe Islands that were put under the red list. Jago, the IATF, however, clarifies that entry of foreign tourists is still being discussed by their small working group. Its guidelines and approval will be announced by the IATF soon. Diego.
Thank you, Asher Gadapan Jr., reporting live from Pasay City. The Philippines will continue its military outpost at the Ayungin Shoal despite the illegal blocking operation of Chinese vessels to Philippine supply boats in the West Philippine Sea. Leah Ilagan reports why.
National Security Advisor Secretary Hermogenes Esperon reiterates there's no need to ask for anybody's permission before going to the West Philippine Sea.
We do not have to ask the permission of anybody because that is within our territory.
The Ayungin Shoal, or the Second Thomas Shoal, is located in the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. Secretary Esperon says they will continue to send supply for government troops in the area.
We have jurisdiction over the area in connection with number one, the UNCLOS, and number two, the arbitral ruling. We will continue the resupply. We do not have to ask the permission of anybody because that is within our territory.
The palace said the Philippines will continue to assert its sovereign rights to the disputed territory.
We will continue to assert our sovereignty and our sovereign rights, our jurisdiction over Ayungin Shoal and all other territories within our jurisdiction, including our EEZ. So we stand by the swift actions of the Department of Foreign Affairs, and we are confident that the DFA will do whatever is necessary.
However, Esperon said they will not deploy the Philippine Navy to carry the supply.
We will not send the Navy, perhaps the Coast Guard at the Bureau of Fisheries. Naka-standby na Coast Guard at Bureau of Fisheries to support and of course enforce fisheries laws doon sa Ayungin.
Esperon hopes that as the diplomatic protest of the Philippines continues, the Chinese militia vessel and Chinese Coast Guard will leave the area. In a statement, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Xiao Lijian said Chinese Coast Guard upheld its sovereignty when Philippine vessels carrying supplies intruded into what it claimed was its waters. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte emerged as the top preferred bets for the 2022 polls based on a latest survey. However, a political strategist believes the recent pronouncements of President Duterte and the disqualification cases against Marcos may affect his ratings. Meanwhile, Mayor Sara rejoins her regional party, Hugpong ng Pagbabago. This report will tell us why. The tandem of presidential aspirant Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos and running mate Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio got the most favorable response in the recent survey of Publicus Asia. The results of the survey, provided by Publicus Asia founder and CEO and political strategist Malu Tequia, showed that BBM-Sara tandem is the top choice among respondents who will vote for a tandem with 41.8%. They are followed by the tandems of Robredo Pangilinan, Dumagoso Ong, Go Duterte, Lacson Soto, and Pacquiao Atienza. The other half of the respondents say they will vote their bets from different tickets. The survey was conducted right after the November 15 substitution deadline with 1,500 registered voters nationwide. Tequia noted that the upward trend of the BBM-Sara tandem will depend on what will happen in the coming days, including the announcement of their full slate. However, the recent tirades of President Duterte and the petitions against Marcos seeking to disqualify him in the elections may affect his standing.
Yung pagbato na gano'n, naghuhudyat na medyo masalimuot ang mangyayari kasi yung two fronts, si Senator Marcos, yung isang DQ niya na i-file ng mga identified with the group of the Vice President Robredo, tapos ito mismong si Pangulo, nung bumato siya, alam natin naghuhudyat na pumukol sa malakas. So technically, ang nakikita ko dyan, even before the debate, there will be an effort to bring down Mr. Marcos' majority support. Kahit ka magbato ng putik, kung si Senator Go hindi naman umaangat, magkakaroon ng chance the likes of either lalaki ang undecided or pupunta kay Dumagoso at kay Pacquiao.
Tequia adds if the disqualification cases against Marcos succeed, his votes would go to other presidential aspirants such as Senator Panfilo Lacson. Tequia calls on the Filipino voters to choose wisely and get to know their candidates.
So napakahalaga na tingnan natin sino ba talaga ang may plano na structural. Hindi yung make-up lang, tokenism. Kung magkakamali tayo ng desisyon sa Mayo 2022, parang isinadlak mo uli ang Pilipinas sa ilang dekada na problema. So maging mapanuri, tingnan ang track record. Pag nagtapo ng putik, alamin kung totoo yung tinapo na putik, pag-aralan.
Meanwhile, Mayor Sara rejoins her regional party, Hugpong ng Pagbabago or HNP, resuming her role as the party's chairperson. The presidential daughter earlier left the party and joined the Lakas CMD, a national party which she also chairs after accepting its chairmanship on Wednesday. In a statement, Mayor Sara says she is happy to be home and that she has the permission of Lakas CMD to hold chairmanships of the two parties concurrently. HNP Secretary General Anthony Del Rosario says the constitution and bylaws of both parties do not prohibit membership and appointment as officer since Hugpong is a regional party. Horlin Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Commission on Election clarifies that substance abuse is not a ground for disqualification for election candidates. This is amid President Rodrigo Duterte's claim that a male presidential aspirant for the 2022 elections is allegedly using cocaine. Dante Amento will tell us why.
Comelec spokesperson Director James Jimenez said the agency previously required candidates to submit a negative drug test during the past elections, but the said move was disapproved by the Supreme Court. Testing positive for drug use will make an election candidate eligible for disqualification. Acting Presidential Spokesperson Secretary Carlo Nograles also said there were clamors in the past over the said issue, but drug testing is only voluntary for candidates. The palace would also not intervene, instead would let the law enforcement agencies to perform their duties. Nograles released the statement after President Rodrigo Duterte disclosed yesterday that a male presidential aspirant for the 2022 elections is allegedly using cocaine.
Yung ating mga law enforcement agencies, especially mga drug enforcement agencies natin, syempre alam naman po nila kanilang mandato. So whatever social status at kung sino man mga may nakukuha mga intel reports, alam na po ng ating mga law enforcement agencies kung anong dapat gawin.
Nograles added, it is also a discretion of the chief executive whether to divulge the identity of the person.
Si Pangulo syempre has access to many sources including mga intel reports. On naming the said individual, we will leave it to the sound judgment of the President. So, nasa discretion na po ng Pangulo kung papangalanan ba niya at kung kailan, kung magdedesisyon ba siya na pangalanan yung individual na yan.
Currently, some male presidential aspirants include Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso, Senators Christopher Bongo, and Fanpilo Lacson. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, presidential aspirants renewed their support for subjecting candidates in the 2022 elections to a mandatory drug test. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte on Thursday claimed that there is a presidential candidate in the 2022 elections who is a cocaine user. Most of the presidential aspirants reacted to President Duterte's allegation. Senator Manny Pacquiao said he is not in a position to judge anyone, but he is willing to undergo drug testing anytime. He also urged all candidates to do the same. Senator Christopher Bongo also expressed willingness to undergo drug test. Senator Panfilo Lacson has expressed the same position. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno refused to comment on the issue but said all presidential aspirants must undergo drug testing and it is better that it is conducted by government authorities.
Kasi if a president will fight against drugs, no, as a matter of policy, then dapat talaga na kami rin. Ako, I don't mind. Anytime.
Labor leader and presidential aspirant Leody de Guzman has dared President Duterte to order an investigation on the alleged cocaine use of another presidential aspirant. Vice President Leni Robredo in an ambush interview also reiterated her call for all aspirants to undergo a surprise drug test. The camp of former senator and presidential aspirant Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos brushed off the claims of President Duterte. Attorney Vic Rodriguez said in a radio interview that they don't feel alluded and they only have the highest respect for President Duterte. Some presidential aspirants also gave their positions regarding the Chinese vessel's water cannon incident in Ayungin Shoal. Mayor Isko vows fearless fight for West Philippine Sea rights.
Now, makikipaggera ba ako sa kanila? Hindi. Pero pag nakalawit ko sila, gagawin kong decolores o dekorasyon yung mga barko nila sa ilalim ng dagat.
For Senator Lacson, filing a diplomatic protest against China is not enough. He insisted that the Philippines should revive alliances with military strong countries.
Ang pag-usapan namin ni President dito, umasa tayo doon sa tinatawag na balance of power na makipag-alyansa tayo, hindi yung parang push over na lang tayo. Sarili na nga nating teritoryo, tayo pa yung tinataboy, water cannon. Napakasamang pangitaan yun, Myla. Kailangan makorek ito.
Also, Senator Pacquiao denounced the latest incident.
We should be firm to defend our territorial rights. No, wag naman tayo magpapabuli. Wala sa vocabulary natin yung magpapabuli tayo. Pero hindi natin kailangan makipag-away. Kung ano yung makatulong sa bansa natin, yun ang ipupush natin.
Vice President Robredo meanwhile condemns the blocking of supply boats in Ayungin Shoal. Nel Maribohok, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippine government will cooperate if U.S. authorities will request for extradition against Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder Apollo Quiboloy. Dante Amento tells us why, live. Dante?
Good evening, Diego. The United States prosecutors have announced the indictment of church founder Apollo Quiboloy and two U.S.-based administrators of Kingdom of Jesus Christ over sex trafficking. Acting Presidential Spokesperson Secretary Carlo Nograles assures the Philippine government will cooperate if U.S. authorities will request for Quiboloy's extradition. However, Nograles clarified there are no current coordination yet from the U.S. government.
Ang bansang Pilipinas naman po ay laging nagko-cooperate, no? Pagdating sa extradition or processes of extradition. So we will cooperate if magkaroon man ng ganyan, whether kung sino man yan, magko-cooperate po ang Pilipinas.
Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara, on the other hand, disclosed no sex trafficking charges have been filed against Quiboloy in the country. The Justice Chief also confirmed they have not received any request for extradition from the U.S. Justice Department, nor from the U.S. State Department through the Department of Foreign Affairs. However, due to the alleged treaty obligations, the Philippines is bound to cooperate. In response to the allegation, Quiboloy's camp in a statement says the issue is another attempt to bring down Quiboloy and some leaders of the organization. They express confidence and preparedness to face the issue and that justice will prevail. And that's our latest live. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Dante Amento, for that live report from Quezon City.
And for the news abroad, Chancellor Angela Merkel and leaders of Germany's 16 states have agreed to follow suit on Austria's tighter COVID-19 restrictions for the unvaccinated. Jane Robles details why, live. Yes, Jane?
Good evening, Kath. Germany's COVID-19 cases rose sharply to more than 65,000 on Thursday, the highest figure since the pandemic began. Once approved by the upper house, restriction for unvaccinated people will be introduced in areas where hospital admissions exceed a set threshold of more than 3 COVID patients per 100,000 people over the past 7 days. Most regions in the country are currently above that threshold. Under the new rules, unvaccinated people, even if they tested negative for COVID-19, will see their access to many public venues restricted. Chancellor Angela Merkel cited the situation as highly dramatic. Europe has again become the area most seriously affected by the pandemic. The World Health Organization warned there will be a hard winter ahead for the region. Kath?
Thank you, Jane Robles, reporting live from Vietnam. Just yesterday, United States President Joe Biden announced that he, alongside his administration, is considering boycotting the Winter Olympics. Nerissa Dando will tell us why live. Good evening, Nerissa.
Winter Olympics in Beijing, the U.S. government administration has considered launching a diplomatic boycott against the event. U.S. athletes would still be able to participate in the event. However, no U.S. official will be present to protest against the human rights abuses committed by the Chinese government. Secretary Jen Psaki addressed the big move, mentioning claims against mistreatment by the Uyghur Muslims in the Xinjiang region.
There are areas that we do have concerns. Human rights abuses, you've seen not just in words we've used, but certainly in actions we've taken at the G7 and other sanctions, that we have serious concerns about the human rights abuses we've seen in Xinjiang.
With the claims, concern rose amongst lawmakers and former officials regarding American athletes' presence in the ceremony whilst Uyghur Muslims are imprisoned in the country. Meanwhile, the decision comes just days after Joe Biden's virtual meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, and tensions between the two countries only continue to rise. Kath?
Nerissa, President Joe Biden recently held a virtual meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Was the 2022 Winter Olympics discussed?
Kath, according to Jan Psaki, topics surrounding the 2022 Winter Olympics were not discussed between the two presidents in their 3.5 hours of virtual meeting. Rather, Biden's comments came after his meeting with Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at the White House. Back to you, Kath.
All right, Nerissa, thank you for that report live from Japan. Peng Shuai, a former Wimbledon and French Open doubles champion, has been unreachable for the past 2 weeks, and the Women's Tennis Association, or WTA, has expressed their concerns for the player. WTA threatened to cancel tournaments in China until the safety of the tennis player has been confirmed. Earlier this month, Peng posted sexual harassment accusations against China's former Vice Premier Zhang Gaoli through her social media, and she has been out of reach since then. Chinese state media then released an email allegedly written to WTA by Peng that the allegation of sexual assault is not true, that she is not missing or unsafe. She is just resting at home and that everything is fine. However, WTA chairman and CEO Steve Simon released a statement through their Twitter account that the statement supposedly written by Peng has only raised more concerns and that she must be allowed to speak freely. A hashtag "Where is Peng Shuai" has been trending on Twitter, and fellow notable tennis players Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka tweeted their support and wished for Peng's safety. Amidst the environmental challenges the world is facing, Italy exhibits its extraordinary pavilion at the Dubai Expo 2020. Annie Mancilia details why live. Yes, Annie?
Good evening, Kath. Italy's pavilion at this year's World Expo, hosted by Dubai, showcases an eco-friendly design by using recyclable materials. Its roof was created using 3 full-size boat hulls built by Fincantieri, one of Europe's largest shipbuilders, while the nautical ropes which comprise the walls are made of recycled plastic bottles. Moreover, the construction materials made use of orange peel and coffee grounds, and the 16 feet tall dune was made of locally acquired sand. According to Italo Rota, one of the designers of the Pavilion of Italy, the design is inspired by the circular economy and embraces the idea of recycling and reusing materials instead of disposing them. Furthermore, Carlo Ratti, an architect and engineer who co-designed the pavilion, said that they wanted to reduce the amount of waste at the end of temporary events similar to this expo.
We are trying to do a pavilion where most of the things in the pavilion are recycled or can be recycled, are reused or can be reused.
The pavilion is one of the most successful during the opening weeks as it attracted 20% of the total visitors for the event. Kat?
Annie, the pavilion is a very creative experiment, and it fits with the Expo sub-themes on sustainability and opportunities. So, do the designers already have plans on what to do with the materials used in building it?
Kath, since the materials they use are environmentally friendly, they can be readily reused or recycled. An example is the boat hull that formed the roof. There is a possibility, according to architect Ratti, that they would eventually turn into sailing boats. There are also talks about converting the whole pavilion into a design center after the expo. Back to you, Kat.
Thank you, Annie Mancilia, reporting live from Singapore. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Kat Tumaraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Psalms, chapter 118, verse 1, it says, "Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, because his mercy endureth forever." And those are the reasons behind the news November 19, 2021. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Herlene Delgado.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Am Angelo Castro III, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
We do not have to ask the permission of anybody because that is within our territory.
May kandidato tayo na nagko-cocaine yan. Yung mga anak ng mga mayaman. Kaya ako nagtaka ako, anong nagawa yung tao niya?
Si Pangulo syempre has access to many sources including mga intel reports. On naming the said individual, we will leave it to the sound judgment of the President.